How did you get into first class? Flight attendant Brad Sullivan towers over seat 2A, staring down at a black man in a plain navy blazer. The passenger sits quietly reading papers, but Brad's eyes burn with disgust. Sir, this is first class. People like you need to move back where you belong. Phone cameras snap up around the cabin. The man looks up calmly, reaches for his boarding pass. Brad slaps the papers from his hands. Don't play games with me. How did someone like you even get money for this seat? Passengers gasp. The man's jaw tightens, but his voice stays steady. I paid for this ticket. Sure you did. Brad smirks, then leans closer. Probably stole a credit card, right? The man reaches slowly toward his leather briefcase. Inside lies a federal badge that will destroy this airline forever. But Brad can't see it yet. Drop a fire emoji if this makes your blood boil, and hit subscribe because justice is coming. 48 hours earlier, Dr. Jonathan Hayes sits in his modest government office, surrounded by stacks of aviation safety reports. The room feels cramped, filled with metal filing cabinets and fluorescent lighting that flickers occasionally. A worn Inspector of the Year 2018 plaque hangs crooked on the wall next to family photos of his wife Denise and teenage daughter Maya. Jonathan flips through a thick manila folder labeled Pinnacle Airways, Complaint Analysis. His pen moves steadily across highlighted sections, circling patterns that make his stomach turn. Page after page shows the same disturbing trend. Black passengers questioned about ticket authenticity. Hispanic families moved from premium seats for operational reasons. Muslim travelers are subjected to extra screening that somehow never happens to white passengers. His assistant, Maria, knocks and enters without waiting. The Pinnacle inspection report is ready for your signature, Dr. Hayes. Should I file it with the headquarters? Jonathan holds up the damning document. Maintenance shortcuts that risk passenger safety. Crew training programs that emphasize passenger control over customer service. Most troubling of all, a pattern of discrimination complaints that the airline dismisses as misunderstandings. Not yet, Maria. I want to experience their service firsthand. Anonymous passenger observation. Maria frowns, adjusting her glasses. You don't usually do field inspections personally anymore. That's for the junior inspectors. Something feels wrong here. Jonathan taps the complaint summaries. Look at these numbers. 47 discrimination complaints in 18 months, all following identical patterns. This isn't coincidence. The phone rings, interrupting their conversation. Maria answers, then covers the mouthpiece. Another passenger complaint about Pinnacle Airways, same story as the others. Jonathan reaches for the phone but pauses when his computer chimes with an email notification. The subject line reads, Pinnacle Airways stock surges 12% on strong quarterly earnings. He clicks it open, scanning the financial news. The airline is celebrating record profits while passengers file civil rights complaints. His desk calendar shows tomorrow's appointment in red ink. Flight 447, Seat 2A, Personal Travel. He booked the ticket under his own name, not his federal credentials. Just another passenger, invisible to the system that's supposed to protect everyone equally. The television in the corner plays background news about the aviation industry facing increased scrutiny over passenger treatment. Recent incidents involving forcible removals and discriminatory practices have sparked congressional interest. Jonathan turns up the volume as a news anchor discusses proposed federal legislation to strengthen passenger rights. Maybe this is bigger than just one airline, he murmurs, studying the reports spread across his desk. Denise calls during lunch, her voice carrying the worry that's become familiar over his 20-year career. Be careful out there tomorrow, Jonathan. You know how they've been treating people who look like us lately. I'll be fine, honey. Just gathering evidence. They won't even know I'm a federal inspector. That's exactly what worries me. After hanging up, Jonathan carefully packs his briefcase. Federal Aviation Administration credentials slide into the leather folder alongside his inspection equipment and evidence files from similar cases. His badge catches the office light, the metal worn smooth from years of service. He pulls out a small digital recorder, checking the battery level. Standard equipment for any inspection, but tomorrow it might capture something more significant than maintenance violations. Maria watches him prepare with growing concern. "Dr. Hayes, what if they recognize you?" "They won't." "I've never inspected Pinnacle directly. To them, I'm just another passenger trying to get from point A to point B." The irony isn't lost on him. Tomorrow, he'll sit in first class not because of his federal authority, but because he saved money from overtime work to afford the upgrade. A black man in government service, invisible to an industry that should treat every passenger with dignity. His inspection folder lies open on the desk, pages of evidence waiting for his signature. But first, he needs to see if Pinnacle Airways will treat Dr. Jonathan Hayes the same way they treat every other passenger of color. The airport bustles with typical morning chaos as Jonathan approaches Gate 12, boarding pass in hand. He's dressed down deliberately, no expensive suit, no status symbols that might signal wealth or importance. Other first-class passengers stride past wearing designer clothes and flashing expensive watches. Their confidence radiates entitlement. The gate agent barely glances at Jonathan's ticket when he approaches. "Right down the aisle, sir." "Have a pleasant flight." Jonathan boards quietly, finding his way to seat 2A without fanfare. The first-class cabin feels spacious, leather seats arranged in comfortable rows. He settles in and pulls out his inspection materials, disguised as personal paperwork. To anyone watching, he looks like a businessman reviewing contracts or financial documents. But Jonathan is working. His trained eye catalogs everything. Emergency equipment placement, noting several violations of federal regulations, crew coordination during boarding, spotting gaps in their safety training, passenger interactions, documenting how staff treat different demographics. Young flight attendant Jenny approaches with a bright smile. She's maybe 23, new to the job, eager to please. "Welcome aboard. Can I get you anything before takeoff?" "Just water, thank you. Thank I." Jonathan continues organizing his folders, watching how Jenny interacts with other passengers. Her service seems genuinely equal, treating everyone with the same courtesy. Then Brad Sullivan emerges from the galley. Jonathan recognizes the type immediately. 12 years with the airline, according to his name tag. The way Brad scans first class reminds Jonathan of a territorial animal marking boundaries. His eyes move methodically from passenger to passenger, taking inventory like he owns the aircraft. Brad's gaze lands on Jonathan and stops, the only black passenger in the premium cabin. His expression shifts almost imperceptibly, the kind of microaggression Jonathan has learned to recognize over decades of government service. Brad approaches Jenny at the service station, speaking in hushed tones. "Did you check his ticket properly?" "Yes, sir. Seat 2A. Everything's in order." "Check again." Something doesn't look right. Jonathan pretends not to hear, continuing to read his inspection reports. The irony stings. Documents detailing discrimination complaints against this very airline spread across his tray table. To Brad, they probably look like random business paperwork. Jenny returns with Jonathan's water, her smile now forced. Brad watches from several feet away, arms crossed. The dynamic has shifted. What started as routine service now feels like surveillance. Other passengers begin noticing the attention focused on seat 2A. A woman in 1C, Sarah Lane, according to her frequent flyer tag, glances over with curiosity. She's young, Asian American, traveling with expensive camera equipment that marks her as some kind of content creator. Brad's whispered conference with Jenny grows more animated. Their body language screams suspicion. Jonathan catches fragments of their conversation. "Verify again, and something's not right, and better safe than sorry." The plane hasn't even taxied from the gate, but Jonathan's inspection has already begun. Not of safety equipment or crew procedures, but of something more insidious. The systematic profiling he's read about in complaint after complaint is happening in real time. He reaches for his phone to document the interaction, a habit from 20 years of federal investigations. The simple gesture of a passenger accessing his device, but to Jonathan it represents evidence collection. Brad sees the phone and his expression hardens further. In his mind, suspicious passengers don't just sit quietly. They document things. They ask questions. They act like they belong when clearly they don't. The confrontation that will shut down an airline is about to begin. Brad Sullivan strides toward seat 2A with the swagger of absolute authority. His chest puffs out as he approaches, every step announcing his dominance over this aircraft. Jonathan looks up from his papers, maintaining the calm demeanor that served him well in federal investigations. "Sir, I need to verify your boarding pass." Jonathan reaches into his jacket pocket without complaint. "I showed it at the gate. I need to see it again. Company policy." Brad's tone carries an edge of suspicion that makes nearby passengers uncomfortable. Jonathan hands over his boarding pass and driver's license. Both documents are legitimate. Brad studies them like a detective examining evidence of a crime, searching for any inconsistency that might justify his suspicions. "This ticket, where exactly did you purchase it?" "Online, through your airline's website." Jonathan's voice remains professional, but his jaw tightens slightly. "How did you afford first class?" The question hangs in the cabin air like poison gas. Passengers in nearby seats turn their heads. The elderly white woman in 2C frowns at Brad's rudeness. The businessman in 1A stops reading his newspaper. Sarah Lane in 1C quietly lifts her phone, finger hovering over the record button. "I'm sorry." Jonathan's tone sharpens. "First class costs $1,500 for this route. That's a lot of money for—" Brad pauses, letting his eyes sweep Jonathan's simple clothing. "For someone in your position. What position would that be?" Brad doesn't answer directly. Instead, he turns toward the galley and calls out loudly enough for the entire cabin to hear. "Captain Torres, I need you up here." The pilot emerges from the cockpit, followed by Airport Security Officer Martinez. Their arrival transforms the situation from uncomfortable questioning into a full-blown confrontation. Other passengers shift in their seats, sensing drama. "This passenger is in the wrong seat," Brad announces with theatrical certainty. Captain Torres looks tired, like she's dealt with Brad's paranoia before. "Sir, we need you to gather your belongings and move to coach." Jonathan remains seated, his federal training kicking in. Document everything. Stay calm. Don't escalate unnecessarily. "I've shown my valid ticket." "I'm not moving." "Company policy allows us to reassign seating for operational reasons," Brad smirks, enjoying his moment of power. The exchange grows heated fast. "You need to move. Now." Brad's voice rises. "I paid for this seat. I'm staying here." Jonathan's response stays level. "Sir, we can do this easy or hard." Captain Torres steps closer, trying to intimidate through proximity. Passengers throughout the cabin are now openly watching. Sarah Lane films everything, her camera capturing every word and gesture. Other phones appear, recording the confrontation from multiple angles. "This is insane," Sarah mutters, loud enough for her camera's microphone. "He has a valid ticket." "Leave the man alone," shouts the passenger in 1A. Brad grows more aggressive as the crowd turns against him. "He's being disruptive." "Security, remove him." Jonathan pulls out his phone. "I'm recording this interaction for my safety." "Put that phone away," Brad snaps. "No, I have every right to document this." Security Officer Martinez steps forward reluctantly. He clearly doesn't want to be part of this situation, but Brad's authority as crew supervisor puts him in an impossible position. "Sir, please step out of your seat voluntarily." "I'm a paying passenger. This is discrimination." Jonathan's voice carries the weight of someone who's seen this pattern before. The crowd energy shifts dramatically. Passengers become protective of Jonathan. "I'm live streaming this to my followers," Sarah announces loudly. "This is 2024, not 1954, calls out a passenger from row 3. "Shame on all of you," the elderly woman in 2C declares with righteous anger. Security reaches for Jonathan's arms. He doesn't resist, but doesn't comply either. This is the moment that will define everything. Protect himself by revealing his federal credentials or gather evidence by enduring the humiliation. Jonathan makes his choice. The briefcase with his federal badge stays closed. "Don't touch me. I'll walk off voluntarily if you can show me which specific policy I violated." Brad realizes he's trapped in his own logic. "You're violating policy by not following crew instructions. Which specific written policy?" "I'd like to see documentation." The crowd murmurs approval of Jonathan's reasoned response. Brad's face reddens with frustration and embarrassment. "We don't have time for legal debates. We're delaying departure." Captain Torres signals security. "Sir, last warning." Martinez reaches for Jonathan again. Hands grab Jonathan's arms. He goes completely limp, forcing them to drag him. His briefcase falls open slightly, just enough for Sarah's camera to catch the edge of his federal badge, though not clearly enough to identify it. "They're literally dragging a black man out of first class for having a valid ticket," Sarah narrates into her live stream. The dragging begins. Jonathan maintains his dignity throughout, voice steady and professional. "I'm not resisting." Document everything. Passengers shout protests. The airplane erupts in chaos. Jonathan's calm voice cuts through the noise as security pulls him down the aisle. This airline has just made the biggest mistake in their corporate history. Sarah's live stream viewer count climbs rapidly. 847 people watching live, numbers growing by the second. 20 minutes later, Jonathan sits in hard plastic chairs at the airport terminal, collecting his scattered briefcase contents. Airport police officer Jane Murphy interviews him with the routine boredom of someone who handles passenger complaints daily. She expects another grievance that disappears into bureaucratic paperwork. "Do you want to press charges for assault, sir?" Jonathan carefully reorganizes his papers. His federal badge catches the harsh fluorescent lighting, metal gleaming against dark leather. "That depends. May I make a phone call first?" Meanwhile, Sarah's live stream has exploded across social media. View count climbs past 15,000 as comments flood her screen. "Who is this man? Boycott Pinnacle Airways now. I saw something in his briefcase." Sarah approaches Jonathan cautiously, phone still recording. "Excuse me, sir? I filmed everything. Would you like a copy?" Jonathan looks up, studying her young face. Decision time has arrived. Continue hiding his identity or reveal the truth that will change everything. "What's your name?" "Sarah Lane, travel blogger. What they did was completely wrong." Jonathan reaches into his briefcase slowly, deliberately letting Sarah's camera capture every movement. His fingers close around leather credentials. Federal Aviation Administration badge emerges into view. Inspector identification follows. Then his recent appointment letter to Regional Safety Director. Sarah's live stream audience loses their minds. "Oh my God! Oh my God!" She whispers into her phone. "Chat, you're not going to believe this." She flips the camera to show Jonathan's credentials clearly. The badge fills her screen in perfect detail. Comments explode faster than she can read. "He's a federal inspector. They assaulted a Fed. Pinnacle is finished. This is amazing." Jonathan speaks directly to Sarah's camera, his voice carrying the weight of federal authority. "My name is Dr. Jonathan Hayes, Federal Aviation Administration Regional Safety Director. I was conducting an anonymous passenger safety inspection of Pinnacle Airways." He pauses, letting the revelation sink in for her growing audience. "Flight 447 has just failed their inspection in the most public way imaginable." Sarah's viewer count explodes past 89,000. Her hands shake with excitement. "What happens now, Dr. Hayes?" Jonathan pulls out his phone, shows Sarah the screen displaying his office contact. "I call headquarters and recommend immediate operational review." He dials, speakerphone letting Sarah's audience hear everything. "Maria, file the Pinnacle report immediately. Full recommendation for operational suspension pending investigation." Sarah's camera captures his signature on the inspection report. His pen moves decisively across federal paperwork. "This airline has demonstrated systematic discrimination, crew training failures, and safety protocol violations," Jonathan continues, speaking directly to the camera. "As of this moment, I'm recommending the Federal Aviation Administration emergency review of their operating certificate. View count hits 150,000. Comments shift from outrage to anticipation. Justice is coming. Get them, Jonathan. This is beautiful. Karma is real." Officer Murphy stares in shock. "Sir, did you say Federal Aviation Administration?" "The same agency that grants airline operating licenses." "Yes, officer." Sarah's live stream breaks her personal record. Viewers share clips across every social platform. The hashtag Justice for Dr. Hayes begins trending. But this is only the beginning. The airline that assaulted a federal inspector has no idea what's coming next. Hidden in Jonathan's briefcase are 18 months of discrimination complaints, financial records, and evidence of systematic bias. Pinnacle Airways just picked a fight with the wrong passenger. The real evidence is about to surface, and it will destroy them completely. 6 hours later, the news cycle explodes across every major network. Channel 7 anchor Tyler Brooks leads with breaking coverage. Federal aviation inspector dragged from first-class seat after investigating airline for discrimination complaints. Sarah's original footage plays on repeat. CNN, Fox News, MSNBC. Every network runs the story. Her view count climbs past 2.3 million as the video spreads globally. Inside Pinnacle Airways headquarters, CEO Michael Davidson holds an emergency board meeting. The mahogany conference table reflects panic in every face around it. "How the hell did we not know he was FAA?" Davidson's voice cracks with desperation. PR Director Lisa Wang shuffles through crisis management protocols. "He booked under his personal name, sir." No corporate account flags. "Get me Brad Sullivan. Immediately." 20 minutes later, Brad sits across from Davidson's imposing desk, sweat staining his uniform shirt. His earlier confidence has evaporated completely. "Explain to me how you managed to assault a federal inspector." "He looked suspicious. First-class passengers don't usually dress like that, and I thought—" "Don't finish that sentence." Davidson's words cut like ice. The financial markets react instantly. Pinnacle's stock price plunges 23% in after-hours trading. Pinnacle boycott trends worldwide with millions of angry posts demanding justice. The airline's official response comes at 11:47 p.m., posted across all social media platforms. "We are reviewing the incident involving passenger Jonathan Hayes. Pinnacle Airways does not tolerate discrimination and is committed to excellent customer service for all passengers." Public reaction to their statement is swift and brutal. 47,000 angry replies flood their Twitter within minutes. 156,000 quote tweets feature fire emojis and boycott threats. The response gets so hard their social media team goes silent. Federal agencies mobilize quickly. The FAA spokesperson releases a statement. The Federal Aviation Administration takes any assault on its personnel seriously. A comprehensive review of Pinnacle Airways' operating procedures is now underway. News networks scramble for exclusive interviews. Tyler Brooks secures a video call with Jonathan for the morning show. "Dr. Hayes, were you surprised by their response to you? Surprised by the physical assault?" "Absolutely." "Surprised by the discrimination?" "Unfortunately, no. My inspection revealed this represents a clear pattern of behavior." "What evidence did you uncover?" I cannot discuss details of an ongoing federal investigation, but passengers can review the FAA's public complaint database. Search Pinnacle Airways discrimination and see for yourselves. Viewers flood the government database immediately. Complaint after complaint surfaces, painting a disturbing picture. Black family moved from first class to coach despite valid tickets. Muslim passengers were subjected to random additional screening that other passengers avoided. Hispanic businessman repeatedly questioned about seat legitimacy. Elderly Sikh man forced to remove turban inappropriately during security check. The pattern becomes undeniable. 47 similar complaints filed over 18 months, all following identical discrimination tactics. Corporate partners begin distancing themselves rapidly. American Express announces, "We are reviewing our partnership with Pinnacle Airways pending investigation outcomes." Major hotel chains follow suit. Marriott, Hilton, and Hyatt suspend their travel rewards programs with Pinnacle until the discrimination allegations are resolved. Conservative talk radio attempts damage control. What if this inspector was actually behaving suspiciously? Why didn't he identify himself immediately? Social media bots push counter-narratives. Federal overreach destroying American businesses, and inspector had a predetermined agenda against the airline. But Sarah's footage is too clear, Jonathan's professionalism too evident. The attempted spin fails completely. Pinnacle employees begin speaking out. An anonymous flight attendant calls into radio shows with voice disguised. Brad Sullivan has done this before. Management knows about his behavior. They just don't care about passenger complaints. A former pilot goes on record with face shown. I reported multiple discrimination incidents to supervisors. They told me to focus on flying and ignore passenger issues. Legal pressure mounts rapidly. Civil rights attorney Marcus Johnson announces, "We're preparing a class action lawsuit representing passengers who experienced similar discriminatory treatment at Pinnacle Airways." International media picks up the story. BBC headlines read, "American Airline faces shutdown after inspector assault." The CNN International covers, "Federal official dragged from plane sparks aviation investigation." Financial institutions review their relationships. Insurance companies question coverage policies. Aircraft leasing companies examine contract violations. Pilot union representatives demand emergency meetings. "Our members don't want to be associated with discriminatory practices," declares the pilot union representative. By midnight, Pinnacle Airways faces complete corporate isolation. Stock price continues falling. Partners abandon ship. Employees distance themselves publicly. The viral video has created a corporate death spiral that accelerates by the hour. But the worst revelations are still coming. Hidden cameras captured training sessions that will expose the systematic nature of their discrimination. The evidence will prove this goes far beyond one bad employee. 72 hours after the incident, Jonathan leads a team of federal investigators through evidence that will reshape the aviation industry. The FAA Investigation Center hums with activity as computer screens display damning statistics from 5 years of Pinnacle's operational data. Investigator Carol Martinez pulls up the first data visualization. Dr. Hayes, these numbers are staggering. The screen shows color-coded charts that make discrimination visible in stark mathematical terms. Black passengers face a 340% higher likelihood of being randomly moved from premium seats. Security concerns get cited 12 times more frequently for minority passengers compared to white travelers. Customer complaints sorted by demographic reveal patterns so clear they look intentional. "This isn't unconscious bias," Jonathan states grimly. "This represents systematic corporate policy." The evidence room contains smoking gun documents that will destroy Pinnacle in court. Carol opens the first email thread, time-stamped March 15, 2024, from Brad Sullivan to Flight Crew Training Group. The subject line reads, "Passenger Screening Guidelines." When you encounter certain demographics in first class, double-check everything thoroughly. Better safe than sorry with these situations. Management supports comprehensive verification of passenger credentials. Captain Torres replied the same day. Understood completely. We'll be extra careful with suspicious passengers. Screenshot that immediately, Jonathan instructs. Legal evidence for federal court. Forensic accountant David Wong presents financial evidence that proves the profit motive behind the discrimination. His computer screen shows Pinnacle saved approximately $2.3 million annually by illegally downgrading passengers and reselling premium seats to white customers. The revenue breakdown is devastating. Passenger downgrades sorted by race show stark disparities. Money from resold seats totals $2,347,891 over 3 years. The discriminatory pattern dates back to 2019, proving this wasn't recent policy. They literally built a business model around discrimination, David explains, highlighting profit margins. Safety Inspector Patricia Adams discovers maintenance records that connect discrimination to passenger safety violations. Her findings show safety inspections were rushed before federal reviews. Equipment failures occurred more frequently on routes with higher percentages of minority passengers. Crew training emphasized passenger control techniques over customer service protocols. They prioritized suppressing passengers over protecting them, Patricia concludes. The most damaging evidence comes from hidden security cameras at Pinnacle's crew training facility. The footage shows an instructor addressing new flight attendants in November 2023. Some passengers will attempt to game our system. Look for behavioral inconsistencies. Designer clothes paired with nervous demeanor. Expensive accessories but discount attitude. Trust your professional instincts about passenger legitimacy. A trainee asks, "What if passengers complain about our scrutiny?" Document every interaction thoroughly. Make them prove they belong in premium seating. Corporate legal will support crew decisions completely. Jonathan reviews the footage with growing anger. Institutionalized profiling taught as company policy. Passenger interviews provide human faces behind the statistics. Dr. Michelle Washington, a pediatric surgeon, recounts her experience. They questioned my first-class ticket 3 times during one flight. Asked repeatedly how I could afford premium seating. I save lives for a living. Professor James Thompson from Yale University adds, "Security moved me for operational reasons, but my seat remained empty the entire flight." Only minority passengers were relocated. Business owner Maria Gonzalez describes identical treatment. They searched my carry-on luggage twice. I was the only Hispanic passenger subjected to additional screening. The pattern recognition software identifies 23 documented cases following identical methodology across different flights and crew members. Corporate communication intercepts reveal executive knowledge of discriminatory practices. An internal memo from CEO Davidson to regional managers reads, "Customer complaints about preferential treatment policies have increased 15%. Ensure our premium cabins maintain appropriate demographic composition. Use discretion but maintain operational standards." Regional managers responded, "Understood completely. We'll ensure quality control measures." Quality control? They're not even hiding their intentions, Jonathan notes with disgust. Financial pressure evidence shows insurance companies pulling coverage due to discrimination liability risks. The cancellation notice states, "Recent discriminatory incidents represent unacceptable legal exposure. Policy cancellation effective immediately. Aircraft leasing companies demand immediate aircraft returns. Their breach notices cite violations of operational standards requiring federal compliance. Pinnacle faces losing $50 million in leased aircraft within 30 days. Tech expert Lisa Wang analyzes Pinnacle's passenger management software, discovering algorithmic discrimination. The system automatically flags passenger profiles by race and ethnicity. Security risk ratings get assigned based on demographic appearance. Seating algorithms actively segregate passengers by racial categories. The discrimination was programmed into their computer systems, Lisa explains, showing coded racial identifiers affecting 15,000 passenger profiles. Former Pinnacle supervisor Janet Cole appears on camera with face and name revealed. I was ordered to track passenger demographics in premium seating monthly. When I refused to participate, they transferred me to baggage handling as punishment. Janet provides spreadsheets tracking racial composition of first-class passengers, bonus structures rewarding crew for appropriate seating management, and training materials emphasizing cabin atmosphere maintenance. Congressional interest intensifies rapidly. Senator Patricia Williams announces, "This investigation reveals systematic civil rights violations requiring immediate congressional hearings." Congressman David Martinez adds, "No American citizen should face discrimination based on appearance in 2024. International aviation authorities express concern. The International Civil Aviation Organization warns, U.S. discriminatory practices may violate international passenger rights agreements. European aviation authorities review code-share partnerships with airlines demonstrating discriminatory behavior patterns." Jonathan stands before a wall covered with evidence. 47 passenger complaints, 23 documented incidents, $2.3 million in discriminatory profits, 156 internal emails proving intent, 12 training videos teaching systematic bias, 5 years of organized discrimination, documented profit incentives, training programs teach prejudice, financial rewards for racist behavior. Jonathan surveys the overwhelming evidence. This transcends one problematic employee. This represents one corrupt corporation. But Pinnacle Airways isn't surrendering without a fight. Their counterattack will target Jonathan personally, and it's about to get very ugly. 1 week after the incident, Denise Hayes opens their front door to find a message spray-painted across their garage in blood-red letters, "FED Traitor." Her hands shake as she calls Jonathan at work. "You need to come home immediately." Security camera footage from 2:47 a.m. shows 3 figures in dark hoodies vandalizing their property from a white pickup truck with obscured license plates. The FBI treats this as a federal crime, but the damage to their family's sense of safety is already done. The harassment campaign escalates quickly. Their home phone rings constantly with recorded death threats. "You destroyed American jobs. Traitor to your badge. Watch your back, Inspector." The voicemails include racial slurs that make Denise cry and keep their teenage daughter Maya awake at night. Jonathan's personal email gets hacked and flooded with thousands of hate messages. Professional aviation forums attack his 20-year career record. Fake social media accounts spread lies about his inspection history, claiming he targets airlines unfairly. At work, the pressure comes from within his own agency. FAA Supervisor James Creek calls Jonathan into his office for an uncomfortable conversation. "Jonathan, there's significant pressure from congressional leadership. Some people believe you exceeded federal authority. I conducted a standard safety inspection using established protocols. Standard inspections don't typically result in airline shutdowns and national media coverage. Standard airlines don't typically assault federal inspectors for sitting in legally purchased seats." The creek shifts uncomfortably. The political pressure is affecting everyone in the building. Aviation industry lobbyists work overtime to paint Jonathan as a rogue agent pursuing personal vendettas. Pinnacle's legal team files motions claiming Jonathan demonstrated bias and exceeded federal authority. Their hired investigators dig through his background, interviewing former colleagues and searching for any negative comments about his work performance. They attempt to find personal connections to discrimination cases that might suggest ulterior motives. Conservative media launches a coordinated attack. Talk radio hosts brand the case "federal overreach destroying family businesses." Cable news pundits argue that one man's hurt feelings shut down 3,000 jobs. Online forums coordinate messaging to undermine Jonathan's credibility systematically. The attacks hit his family directly. Maya comes home from school in tears after classmates repeat things their parents said about Jonathan hating America and destroying the airline industry. "Dad, why are people saying you're the bad guy?" Maya asks during dinner, her voice breaking. "Because standing up for what's right sometimes makes powerful people angry," Jonathan replies, but his own voice wavers with exhaustion. Denise reveals the full extent of community isolation. The neighbors cross the street when they see me coming. Mrs. Peterson, who brought us cookies every Christmas for 5 years, pretends not to see me at the grocery store. The professional sabotage intensifies. FAA Regional Director Robert Stone suggests Jonathan consider transferring to a quieter district until this controversy dies down. Are you asking me to abandon the federal investigation? I'm asking you to be practical about career survival. Politics matter in government service. Since when do politics override federal law enforcement? Late at night, Jonathan sits alone in his study, surrounded by case files and evidence while security company technicians install cameras and alarm systems. His family lives in fear because he did his job correctly. The breaking point comes during a phone call at 11:30 p.m. An electronically disguised voice delivers the ultimate threat. Drop the investigation or face serious consequences. Who is this? Someone who knows where your daughter goes to school every morning. The line goes dead. Jonathan's hands shake for the first time since this began. Threatening a federal agent is one crime, but threatening his child crosses every possible line. Denise finds him staring at evidence of photos of discriminated passengers. Sometimes I wonder if we should have stayed quiet and protected our family. That's not who we raised Maya to be. That's not the example we want to set. Phone records reveal the coordinated nature of the harassment campaign. IP addresses traced to a PR firm hired by Pinnacle Airways. Financial records show $500,000 paid for crisis management services that include personal attacks on Jonathan's reputation. But support appears from unexpected sources. Sarah Lane calls with news that changes everything. Dr. Hayes, I've been receiving threats too, but I also received something else. More footage from other passengers. You need to see this evidence immediately. The intimidation campaign was designed to silence him. Instead, it's about to backfire spectacularly as new allies emerge with evidence that will blow this case completely open. Sarah Lane's apartment looks like a digital war room. 3 monitors display video editing software, passenger testimonies, and evidence timelines. She's been collecting footage from other passengers on Flight 447, and what she's discovered will change everything. Dr. Hayes, I've compiled footage from 14 different camera angles during your incident, plus interviews from passengers on 23 different Pinnacle flights. The patterns are undeniable. Her computer screen shows Marcus Williams, a businessman who secretly recorded Brad Sullivan during boarding. The footage captures Brad counting black passengers in first class and writing numbers on his clipboard like he's conducting a racial census. Look at this audio from Elena Rodriguez, Sarah continues, playing crystal clear sound. Brad telling a trainee flight attendant, "Too many of them in premium seating today. We need better screening procedures." The third video comes from software engineer David Park, who filmed Brad instructing Jenny during crew training. Watch the passengers who don't fit our typical demographic profile. Experience teaches you who belongs where. This is systematic profiling documented across multiple flights, Sarah explains. Every flight, same behavior pattern. Civil rights attorney Michelle Carter arrives at Sarah's apartment with a coalition of affected passengers. Her legal team now represents 47 passengers with identical experiences across 4 different airlines. Dr. Hayes, your case exposed something much larger than Pinnacle Airways, Michelle explains. We've discovered an industry-wide discrimination network. The passenger testimonies are devastating. Dr. Patricia Washington, a renowned heart surgeon, recounts, "They questioned my medical certification, claiming it looked suspicious. Asked how someone like me obtained surgical training. I've saved thousands of lives." Professor James Wright from Harvard adds, "Security questioned my university employment 3 separate times during one flight. Only black passengers investigated so thoroughly." Tech CEO Maria Santos provides the most damning account. "They randomly selected my luggage for additional screening on 6 consecutive flights." Statistical impossibility unless targeting is deliberate. Flight attendant Jennifer Adams steps forward with 5 years of insider evidence. She's been secretly recording Brad's discriminatory training sessions, and the footage is explosive. I recorded Brad teaching new crew members explicit profiling techniques, Jennifer reveals, playing hidden camera footage from crew meetings. Brad's voice fills the room. Look for behavioral inconsistencies. Expensive clothes but nervous demeanor. Designer accessories but uncomfortable body language. Your instincts will develop over time about passenger authenticity. A trainee asks, "What if we make mistakes?" Brad responds, "Better safe than sorry." Management supports thorough verification over passenger complaints. We've never lost a discrimination lawsuit. Captain Torres appears on another recording. Some passenger types complain about everything. Double-check the problematic ones before they cause trouble. The financial investigation team presents evidence of a broader conspiracy. Forensic accountant David Wong reveals offshore shell companies connected to discrimination training. Pinnacle Airways operated Premium Cabin Solutions LLC, a consulting company that sold discrimination protocols to other airlines, David explains, showing incorporation documents. The business model generated $12 million by teaching systematic bias to aviation industry clients. 3 other major airlines purchased Pinnacle's consulting services: Coastal Airways with 23 discrimination complaints, Mountain Air with 31 similar incidents, and Desert Sky with 19 documented cases. This represents an industry-wide discrimination network, David concludes. International aviation authorities offer unexpected support. The International Pilot Association releases a statement. We condemn discriminatory practices in aviation worldwide and support Dr. Hayes's courageous investigation. The Global Flight Attendant Union adds, no crew member should receive training in passenger profiling. We stand with victims of airline discrimination. Congressional leadership announces emergency hearings. Senator Patricia Williams declares, the Transportation Committee will hold public hearings on systematic airline discrimination with Dr. Hayes as our primary witness. Congressman David Martinez adds, this investigation reveals violations of multiple federal civil rights statutes requiring immediate legislative action. Media momentum shifts dramatically in Jonathan's favor. CNN announces, new footage reveals systematic airline discrimination training programs. 60 Minutes schedules a prime-time documentary, The Inspector Who Exposed Aviation's Hidden Bias. The Washington Post runs a front-page story, How One Federal Employee Dismantled Corporate Discrimination Network. Legal support multiplies rapidly. The NAACP Legal Defense Fund files federal civil rights charges. The Southern Poverty Law Center seeks court injunctions against discriminatory airline practices. The ACLU demands industry-wide reform of passenger treatment protocols. Employee unions abandon Pinnacle Airways completely. Pilot Union representative Captain Sarah Mitchell announces, our members refuse participation in discriminatory passenger treatment. Flight attendant union leader James Cooper demands, immediate termination of Brad Sullivan and industry-wide bias training elimination. The Pinnacle Mechanics Union issues a solidarity statement. We support Dr. Hayes and equal treatment for all airline passengers. Financial institutions accelerate their abandonment of Pinnacle. BlackRock divests $50 million in airline stock. Vanguard sells all Pinnacle holdings immediately. State pension funds remove Pinnacle from investment portfolios. Credit rating agencies downgrade Pinnacle to junk status. Moody's cites, discrimination lawsuits pose existential business threat. Standard & Poor's warns, outlook negative due to legal liability exposure. International consequences expand. The European Union bans Pinnacle Airways from EU airspace pending discrimination investigation completion. Canada initiates review of landing rights for discriminatory carriers. Mexico requires passenger protection compliance before flight approval. Technology evidence emerges from Lisa Wang's deep analysis of Pinnacle's systems. Their passenger management software contained 15,000 racial profiles, automatic demographic risk assessments, and seating algorithms designed for passenger segregation. Discrimination was programmed into their computer architecture, Lisa explains. Jonathan reviews the overwhelming evidence with his legal team. 23 passenger testimonies with video proof. 156 internal emails demonstrating systematic intent. Financial records showing discrimination profits. Training materials teaching institutional bias. Software systems enabling racial segregation. We have them completely, Attorney Michelle Carter concludes. Not just Pinnacle, but the entire discriminatory system they created and sold to other airlines. Sarah Lane's live stream now reaches 15 million followers daily. Her documentation sparked a global movement for airline passenger equality. Day 12 after the incident brings coordinated nationwide demonstrations that shut down airport operations across America. Atlanta Hartsfield-Jackson sees 500 protesters carrying signs reading, "Equal skies for all," while chanting in perfect unison. Los Angeles International hosts 800 demonstrators, including flight crews from competing airlines holding banners, "Crews Against Discrimination." Their participation sends shockwaves through aviation management nationwide. Chicago O'Hare becomes the epicenter with 1,200 protesters led by Reverend Michael Johnson. "We will not fly with hate. We will not accept bias in our skies." At JFK, New York, 2,000 people created the largest aviation civil rights demonstration in history, chanting, "Justice for Dr. Hayes! Justice for Dr. Hayes!" Social media explodes with viral content supporting the movement. TikTok's hashtag Dr. Hayes Challenge accumulates 47 million views as users share personal discrimination stories. The hashtag First Class for All reaches 23 million views with passengers documenting equal treatment experiences. #Pinnacle Shutdown generates 89 million views through creative videos demanding airline closure. Twitter momentum becomes unstoppable. #Justice for Dr. Hayes generates 2.8 million tweets from celebrities, politicians, and ordinary citizens. Actor Michael B. Jordan posts, "Dr. Hayes showed courage when America needed it. We stand with him." Tennis champion Serena Williams tweets, "Discrimination has no place in our skies." Period. Musician John Legend announces at concerts, "Until airlines treat everyone equally, we choose our flights very carefully." Instagram activism reaches new heights. Influencers post discrimination experiences with airline companies. Travel bloggers expose systematic bias in airport treatment. 500,000 users post videos destroying their Pinnacle Airways frequent flyer cards. Corporate boycotts expand exponentially. Fortune 500 companies cancel Pinnacle contracts worth hundreds of millions. Government agencies suspend official travel bookings on Pinnacle flights. Military personnel receive orders prohibiting personal Pinnacle travel. Financial markets respond with unprecedented volatility. Pinnacle stock drops 67% from pre-incident levels. Trading volume reaches 300% above normal as investors flee. Options traders bet heavily on bankruptcy proceedings. International pressure intensifies dramatically. London Heathrow protesters surround Pinnacle gates, preventing passenger boarding. Paris. Charles de Gaulle aviation workers refuse aircraft servicing. Tokyo Narita sees massive passenger cancellations as Japanese travelers boycott discriminatory airlines. Congressional pressure reaches critical mass. The Senate Transportation Committee schedules emergency public hearings. The House Civil Rights Caucus demands Department of Justice intervention. Bipartisan congressional letters flood FAA headquarters demanding immediate Pinnacle accountability. Employee rebellion spreads throughout Pinnacle operations. The pilot union issues ultimatums. "We refuse flying until discriminatory policies end completely." Flight attendants organize collective action. No crew participation in passenger bias enforcement. Ground crews express solidarity. We support equal treatment for every airline passenger. Sarah Lane's live streams become daily appointment viewing for 300,000 people. Her real-time investigation updates coordinate protest activities nationwide. Live interviews with affected passengers maintain public outrage. Constant coverage of legal proceedings keeps pressure mounting. Community organizing reaches unprecedented levels. Local NAACP chapters coordinate airport demonstrations across 50 cities. Student organizations stage campus boycotts of discriminatory airline partnerships. Religious leaders incorporate dignity messages into weekly services. Labor unions express solidarity with civil rights enforcement. Media saturation becomes total. Cable news provides round-the-clock coverage of protests and legal developments. Newspapers feature daily front-page updates on case progression. Radio shows dedicate entire programs to caller discrimination experiences. Podcasts produce multi-part series on systematic airline bias. Economic impact spreads throughout the travel industry. Competing airlines experience booking surges as passengers abandon Pinnacle permanently. Airport vendors report revenue drops at Pinnacle-dominated terminals. Tourism boards express concern about discrimination's impact on travel confidence. Jonathan's role evolves from victim to movement leader. Press conferences draw hundreds of reporters. This movement transcends one person or one airline. This represents dignity, equality, and corporate accountability in America. When asked about Pinnacle's potential closure costing jobs, Jonathan responds, "Discrimination also costs people their dignity. Human dignity outweighs corporate profits every single time." Social media hashtags evolve with the movement's growth. Week 1 focused on hashtag justice for Dr. Hayes. Week 2 expanded to airline accountability. Week 3 becomes hashtag equal skies, representing systematic change. The pressure builds toward tomorrow's federal courthouse hearing. FAA announces emergency review of Pinnacle's operating certificate. The stakes are ultimate: complete license revocation versus conditional operational reinstatement. But Pinnacle Airways has one final desperate legal maneuver that could change everything. Federal courthouse steps overflow with 200 protesters as media satellite trucks line every street. Judge Patricia Williams presides over the emergency FAA hearing that will determine Pinnacle Airways' fate. C-SPAN broadcasts live coverage while CNN and major networks provide continuous commentary. Sarah Lane live streams from courthouse steps to 450,000 viewers. This is it, everyone. Today decides whether justice wins or corporate power survives. Inside the packed courtroom, FAA. Attorney David Martinez delivers opening statements. Evidence will demonstrate systematic discrimination, compromising passenger safety and violating federal aviation regulations. Pinnacle's expensive legal counsel, Robert Sterling, radiates false confidence. Dr. Hayes exceeded federal authority and demonstrated predetermined bias. This hearing represents dangerous government overreach. Jonathan takes the witness stand with quiet dignity. His federal credentials speak louder than Sterling's objections. Dr. Hayes, describe your Flight 447 inspection. I conducted routine anonymous passenger safety observations following standard FAA protocols for investigating discrimination complaints. Sterling cross-examines aggressively. Isn't it true you concealed your federal identity to entrap my client? I purchased a legal ticket and sat in my assigned seat. If that constitutes entrapment, every airline passenger commits the same offense. Courtroom spectators chuckle. Sterling's desperation shows. Video evidence presentation destroys Pinnacle's defense. Large screens display Sarah's crystal-clear footage of Jonathan's removal. The dragging looks even worse in federal court than on social media. Did you resist or threaten crew members? Martinez asks. I remained calm and compliant throughout the assault. Sterling objects repeatedly, but video evidence speaks for itself. Pinnacle's defense crumbles when Martinez presents internal training materials. The courtroom watches Brad Sullivan teaching explicit racial profiling to new flight attendants. Trust your instincts about passenger demographics. Some people just don't belong in premium seating. A trainee asks, "What about complaints?" Brad responds, "Document everything." Corporate legal handles discrimination accusations. We've never lost a case. The courtroom gasps audibly. Judge Williams calls for order. Brad Sullivan takes the stand looking defeated. His earlier arrogance has evaporated completely. "Mr. Sullivan, do you recall instructing the crew to watch for demographic inconsistencies?" "We train staff to be observant of suspicious behavior." "Define suspicious behavior specifically." "Well, inappropriate dress for service class, nervous demeanor." "Mr. Sullivan, is being black in first-class suspicious behavior?" Sterling objects frantically, but damage is done. Martinez presents the smoking gun evidence, previously undisclosed hidden camera footage from Pinnacle's training facility. The courtroom falls silent as screens show Brad addressing new employees. "You'll develop instincts about passenger legitimacy. Some demographics don't typically afford premium seating. Trust professional judgment over political correctness." The footage continues with devastating clarity. Management supports thorough verification. Better to question legitimacy than face security risks. The courtroom erupts. Judge Williams pounds her gavel. CEO. Michael Davidson looks stunned. This footage was supposed to be destroyed. Financial evidence seals Pinnacle's fate. Forensic accountant David Wong testifies, Pinnacle profited $2.3 million annually from discriminatory passenger downgrades. They built a business model around discrimination? Correct. They consulted other airlines on premium cabin demographic management. Witness testimony crescendos with passenger accounts. Dr. Michelle Washington. They questioned my medical license authenticity. Professor James Thompson. 3 random security checks on 1 flight. Tech CEO Maria Santos. Asked how I afforded first class 6 different times. 23 witnesses, identical treatment patterns. The discrimination is undeniable. Sterling attempts one final desperate argument. Your Honor, revoking our certificate eliminates 3,000 jobs. Judge Williams responds with judicial authority. Mr. Sterling, discrimination also eliminates human dignity. Constitutional rights outweigh economic concerns. Decision moment arrives. The courtroom holds its breath. Based on overwhelming evidence of systematic discrimination, safety violations, and profit-driven prejudice, this court finds Pinnacle Airways in violation of multiple federal aviation regulations. Dramatic pause. Sarah's live stream peaks at 2.1 million viewers. Pinnacle Airways operating certificate is hereby revoked, effective immediately. The courtroom explodes with cheers, tears, and overwhelming emotion. Spectators leap to their feet. Sarah's live stream chat moves too fast to read. Thousands of celebration emojis and justice declarations. Outside the courthouse, crowds chant, "Justice, justice, justice." Jonathan addresses the media with characteristic humility. Today proved accountability still exists in the American justice system. Sarah concludes her historic live stream. We just witnessed the power of truth defeating corporate lies. This is what justice looks like when people stand together. Pinnacle Airways dies in federal court, killed by their own evidence. But this story's impact will reshape the entire aviation industry forever. The aftermath will change how airlines treat every passenger in America.